Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be going over Zbutt V2. Zbutt is essentially an artisan casting system. It's what helps you create the molds you need to use to make artisan keycaps. In this video, I'll be going over the Pro Starter Pack, which includes a stem cavity, a sculpting base, a master base, a no-hassle container, a Zbutt copy container, a tall copy riser, a short copy riser, a reservoir topper, and 4 metal pins. The master base allows you to clone your pre-existing keycaps. This is not where you put clay. As the name suggests, the sculpting base is where you sculpt your artisan keycaps using clay. The stem cavity helps you form the top part of the mold. This is where you can get a maker's mark customized. This is the reservoir topper, which is kind of optional, but it creates a space at the top of the mold to help collect excess resin. Next, we have the tall and short copy risers, which help you clone the Zbutt parts. Here's the no-hassle container, which basically acts as your mold box. Lastly, we have the Zbutt copy container, which acts as a larger mold box when cloning the Zbutt parts. By the way, when I say cloning, I really mean that we're gonna make duplicates of all the parts I just showed you. This way, you can make more artisan keycaps without having to worry about breaking or losing any of the parts. So basically, this first video is going to cover cloning the Zbutt parts. I really don't recommend skipping this step because it really sucks to have to order another kit if you lose any of the parts. So first steps, grab your Zbutt copy container, your tall copy riser, and your stem cavity. Place your stem cavity into the tall copy riser and make sure it's level. Next, slide it into the copy container. Then, join both sides of the copy container. And with that, you're ready to clone the stem cavity. Also, just a side note, but you're gonna see me make a pretty big mistake here. I was trying to clone the reservoir topper, but I made the mistake of not securing it down to the copy container. So basically, just ignore the bottom half of the copy container and pay attention to the stem cavity. Cool, so once both sides of your copy container are joined together, I usually take a popsicle stick and push down on the stem cavity just to double check that everything is level. After that, I take a rubber band and wrap it around the copy container. This is to make sure everything's nice and snug and that no silicone leaks out. Now it's time to measure out your silicone. I like using a jewelry scale, that way I know I'm being precise with both part A and part B. Once you've measured out the amount you need, then begin mixing. Make sure you really mix this thoroughly. Once you have your silicone mixed, I really suggest that you pre-fill the stem. I do this by taking a toothpick and gently inserting a little bit of silicone directly into the stem. You want to try to push the air out just to help make sure that there aren't any bubbles in your final mold. Once that looks good, you can begin pouring the rest of your silicone. You should be pouring one narrow, tall stream into one corner. This way, the silicone naturally disperses. This helps to minimize any air bubbles in your silicone. Once that's done, you can transfer the entire thing into your pressure pot. Or if you don't have a pressure pot, you can just let it sit somewhere and cure at room temperature. Once your silicone has finished curing, take it out of the pressure pot. Now it's time to demold and see how your molds came out. You can see my failed reservoir topper mold here, just ignore that again. We're going to be focusing on the stem cavity. So first you're going to want to remove some of the excess silicone. Then you can gently peel the corners away from the tall copy riser. Be careful not to apply too much force. Once all 4 corners are a little bit loose, you should be able to pull out the tall copy riser. Getting the stem cavity out can be a little bit tricky, but we're going to try to do the same process. Gently peel the 4 corners away from the stem cavity. Again, don't use too much strength as you might break it. A helpful trick I came up with is to use a small popsicle stick to sort of insert and pry out the stem cavity. I found that this actually works pretty well, but just remember you should be pretty gentle when doing this. Thankfully in V2 the sprues are these metal pins, so hopefully you shouldn't be breaking them as easily. Once you finally remove the stem cavity from your mold, you can use a pair of flush cutters to cut off some of the excess silicone bits. After that, then you're done. You can now use this mold with your favorite resin to create copies of the stem cavity. Make sure to do this entire process I've just shown you with the sculpting base and also the master base. However, instead of using the tall copy riser, you should put those on top of the short copy riser. The process is pretty similar to what we did with the stem cavity. All you have to do is place the sculpting base on top of the short copy riser and then place it into the copy container. Then join both sides of the copy container together. Then I would get my silicone ready. Similar to the stem cavity, I would pre-fill the hole of the sculpting base with silicone. After that, you can just pour the rest of your silicone. When you're pouring your silicone, make sure it completely covers the sculpting base. You don't have to fill it completely to the top. The process is basically the same with the master base. Lastly, if you want to clone the reservoir topper, this is how you actually properly do it. The Zbutt community actually helped me on this one, but you want to put a little bit of clay on the bottom of your reservoir topper, that way it sticks to the box when you put it in. Then I would suggest pre-filling the holes with silicone. And lastly, just like the other stuff, pour the silicone on top and completely cover. Thanks for watching everyone. In the next video, I'll show you how to use these molds to create resin copies of the Zbutt parts.